I'm 74 years old. For most of my life, people looked at me and thought I had won. They saw the house, the career, the respect. They saw success. What they didn't see was the quiet disappointment that followed me home every night. When I was young, I believed success would fix everything. I thought once I reached a certain level, a certain income, a certain status, life would finally feel complete, peaceful, meaningful. I was wrong. Before I continue, let me ask you something. Where are you watching from right now? What country, what city, what small room or quiet place are you sitting in as you hear this? Take a second and write your location in the comments below. It reminds me how many different lives are listening to the same truth at the same time. Now, let me tell you what success really gave me. When I was younger, success was everything. I measured my worth by results, promotions, numbers, recognition. I believed being busy meant being important. I believed being admired meant being fulfilled. So I worked harder, longer, louder. I sacrificed weekends and told myself it was temporary. I missed moments and convinced myself I would make them up later. I delayed joy because I thought joy was something you earned after enough effort. Success rewarded that mindset. Doors opened. Opportunities came. People listened when I spoke. But something else happened too, something no one warned me about. My life became smaller. Not on the outside. On the inside. As responsibilities grew, my world narrowed. Conversations became transactional. Relationships became scheduled. Everything had a purpose except the one thing that mattered most: feeling alive. I remember the first time I noticed it. I was sitting alone in a place I had worked years to reach, surrounded by the evidence of achievement. And instead of pride, I felt nothing. Not sadness. Not anger. Just emptiness. That was the moment I realized success doesn't automatically come with meaning. It comes with pressure, with expectation, with the fear of losing what you worked so hard to build. I became careful, protective, afraid to slow down. Because when you tie your identity to success, rest feels like risk. I also learned that success changes how people treat you, and not always in good ways. Some admire you. Some resent you. Some only see what they can gain. It becomes harder to tell who is there for you and who is there for the version of you that benefits them. And slowly, without realizing it, you begin to perform your own life. You smile when you're expected to. You nod through conversations you don't feel present in. You keep going because stopping would force you to ask questions you're not ready to answer. At 74, I can tell you this clearly: success does not replace connection. It does not heal unresolved pain. And it does not guarantee peace. I thought achieving more would quiet the voice inside me that asked, "Is this it?" Instead, that voice grew louder. Because once you reach the top of the ladder, you finally see what it's leaning against. And sometimes, it's the wrong wall. I don't say this to dismiss ambition. Ambition can be beautiful. But when success becomes your only language, you forget how to speak to your own heart. I lost touch with parts of myself that didn't produce results. Curiosity, playfulness, stillness, the ability to be present without proving anything. Those parts don't disappear. They wait. And one day, much later, they ask why you left them behind. If you're listening to this and chasing success right now, please understand this. Success amplifies who you already are. It doesn't create happiness, it exposes what's missing. I didn't understand that until much later. And by then, the cost was already paid. Success didn't arrive all at once. It crept in slowly, disguised as progress. A promotion here. Recognition there. Each step felt earned, justified. I told myself I was building something important. Not just a career, but a life. What I didn't see was what I was slowly trading away. Time was the first thing to go. Not all at once, but in small pieces. Evenings that turned into late nights. Weekends that became just one more thing. I kept promising myself I'd slow down after the next milestone. There was always another milestone. People around me adjusted at first. They understood. They encouraged me. They said they were proud. And that made it easier to continue. But understanding has limits. I missed birthdays and told myself there would be others. I postponed conversations because I was too tired to be present. I answered questions with half-listening and distracted replies. Over time, I became reliable professionally and unreliable personally. Success didn't demand that I abandon people. It simply rewarded me for doing so quietly. Another thing success took from me was honesty, not with others, but with myself. I learned how to justify everything. I became skilled at turning discomfort into necessity. I framed sacrifice as responsibility and exhaustion as dedication. And because it was rewarded, I never questioned it. Until the rewards stopped feeling rewarding. At some point, I realized I was surrounded by people but rarely felt truly seen. Conversations revolved around outcomes, not experiences. Achievements, not emotions. I knew how to talk about results. I forgot how to talk about myself. One of the hardest moments came when someone I cared about said, "You're always here, but you're never really here." That sentence stayed with me. Because it was true. Success trained me to be forward-focused, always anticipating the next goal. The problem is, life happens in the present. I didn't realize how much I had missed until I tried to remember it later. Another cost of success is that it conditions you to equate worth with output. When things are going well, you feel valuable. When they slow down, you feel uneasy. Rest becomes uncomfortable. Stillness feels undeserved. Even when I had time, I didn't know what to do with it. I had built a life optimized for achievement, not fulfillment. And then there was the fear. The fear of losing what I had worked so hard to gain. The fear of being replaced. The fear that if I stopped, I would become irrelevant. Success is loud when you're climbing, but very quiet when you start asking why. At 74, I understand something I didn't back then. Success is not a destination. It's a condition. And like any condition, it shapes you over time. It can sharpen you or harden you. I hardened. I became less patient, less curious, less willing to sit with uncertainty. I wanted answers, control, outcomes. But life doesn't respond well to control. The relationships that mattered most to me didn't need my efficiency. They needed my attention. And attention is the one thing success quietly steals if you let it. If I could go back, I wouldn't measure my life by how impressive it looked from the outside. I would measure it by how connected it felt on the inside. Because at the end of the day, no achievement sits beside you when the noise fades. People do. And I didn't always choose them. Before I continue, let me ask you a favor. Please subscribe to my channel before it's too late. Now let's continue. I wish someone had told me years ago. At 74, success no longer impresses me. Peace does. I used to believe that once I reached enough, I would finally feel settled. That fulfillment was waiting just beyond the next achievement. But fulfillment doesn't chase momentum. It waits for stillness. The truth is, success magnifies who you already are. If you're fulfilled, it expands joy. If you're empty, it echoes that emptiness louder. I didn't understand that when I was younger. What I would do differently isn't dramatic. It's simple, and that's why it's so easy to ignore. I would choose presence over performance. I would leave earlier. I would listen longer. I would say no without explaining myself. I would allow pauses without guilt. I would stop trying to prove that my life mattered and start living as if it already did. One of the biggest lies success teaches you is that slowing down means falling behind. But slowing down is how you notice what actually matters. The laughter you missed. The people who waited. The moments that never repeat. I would stop postponing joy. I spent too many years telling myself, after this project, after this goal, after this phase. Life doesn't live in the after. It lives in now. At 74, I don't regret ambition. I regret imbalance. I regret not understanding that a full calendar is not a full life. That respect from strangers does not replace love from people who know you. That success is a tool, not a purpose. If you're young and listening to this, here's what I want you to hear clearly. You don't need to earn rest. You don't need to justify happiness. You don't need to delay being human. Success will always ask for more. Life asks for attention. Choose wisely. Because one day you'll look back, not at what you built, but at who you shared it with. And that's the only success that truly stays. If this story resonated with you, let me know in the comments. And again, where are you watching from? Your answer might mean more than you think.